The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. I am back. You are comfortably zoned in Alameda, California. I've got the Fab Four with me. So how happy am I? Very. 3 out of 4 of the Fab Four. George Case is not here yet, but Hal Bock is. Hello, Hal.
Good to be here with you guys.
Well, good to have you. David Hubler from Florida now.
Yes, a recruit to the Deep South.
Yeah,
How are you?
via the Bronx and the not-so-deep South.
Right.
Okay. I will talk in a moment about that. I want to welcome Alan Blumkin. How are you?
Hello there, everybody.
Good.
I'm channeling my inner Mel Allen.
Not bad. You know, speaking of old voices on the radio, YouTube has expanded the number of old games that they offer, both on radio and television. And I posted it on the site. It was a Dodger Giant game in 1957 when Willie Mays goes 4 for 5. He's up in the bottom of the ninth, and after going 4 for 4, and does not come through, and the Dodgers beat the Giants. And when listening to it, I had the same feelings that I had in 1957 when I was 11 years old. And as a matter of fact, both Drysdale and Koufax came in relief. Imagine how young they were in 1957 in that game. So it brought back feelings. That's all I can tell you. But let's use the time that we have to talk about Hal's column and what's going on in baseball. We're back from the lockout. What's wrong and what's right about baseball, Hal? Hal Bock.
What's wrong is an awful lot of things that are wrong. Where would you like me to start? First of all, we had a lockout that the owners perpetrated and shut down the industry for 99 days so that we had no trades, we had no free agent signings, we had no nothing. And, I mean, it was stupid. It was a stupid thing to do. But they shut down the game for 99 days, and now they've got the game back and they're rushing through spring training. I'll guarantee you there are going to be injuries because players are going to be doing things they shouldn't be doing at this stage. They should be halfway through spring training, and they're really just starting spring training. So that's a dangerous situation, particularly for the pitchers. So they did that to us. Then they decided, I don't know how they came to this conclusion, but I was thrilled to hear it, that they were doing away with the ghost runner on second base in extra innings. One of the stupidest ideas they ever came up with. And we lived with that last year. I thought it was ridiculous. And they were going to do away with it. Now, today I read they're bringing it back. They're talking about bringing it back. Well, why would you do that? Why would you do away with it and then decide to bring it back? I don't get it. I don't understand what these people are thinking about. But that's
are they thinking about two things? First of all, the players' union doesn't really enjoy the overtime of extra innings, and it cuts down on the time of the games. And baseball's been getting a lot of bad press. We in the Fab Four can't understand why people would not want to see an extra inning game to its completion merely because of the excitement. And why go to a game if you're so damn anxious to get home from a game?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Why do you go there in the first place? It's a game of baseball, and it's played in a certain way, in a certain field, with a certain number of players, and so forth. It's called baseball. And if you don't like it, then don't go. Stay home. But don't try to change the game to satisfy the needs of people who don't want to be there in the first place. I mean, that's just ridiculous. That rule just, it sends me over the edge every time I talk about it.
Yeah, that's one of the worst. That, and of course, the runner on second base in extra innings. They're just horrendous rules. And I was pleased to see that they had been eliminated. But now, God, what you just told me, Hal, it's hard for me to believe that. I mean, being stupid once is one thing, but being stupid a second time for the same thing is really dumb.
Right,
a 12-inning game. The 12-inning game, each team will use 12 pitches.
Action. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It just is. And so they've got that going on. The designated hitter is going to be in the National League. It's something that I have been opposed to for all the time that it's been in the American League. I refuse to watch American League games because it's not real baseball. Real baseball is played with 9 batters, 9 hitters, 9 fielders, and no designated hitters. But we are now going to have the designated hitter. I understand why they did that, and I can almost sympathize with the reasoning that pitchers have no idea how to hit and risk injury every time they get to the plate. That's not the case with Jacob deGrom of the Mets. He was probably one of their better hitters because, I don't know, I guess he had some idea about what he had to do when he got to the plate. But there are pitchers who have gotten on base and gotten injured running the bases, so I understand player safety and that part of it. But you're changing the nature of the game. You're changing the basic design of the game. And if that's what you want to do, well, okay, go ahead and do it. But don't, and the silly part of it was, for the longest time, and this is one advantage, at least both leagues will be playing the same game. Everybody's going to have the same rules. We used to have in the World Series, in the American League Park, you had the designated hitter, but when the teams moved to the National League Park, there was no DH. So, I mean, that's ridiculous. You're playing 2 different sets of rules in the showcase event of your season. So I didn't like that too much. I also don't like one of the wrinkles that they've put in with the new agreement is that every team will play every other team. Interleague play is the rule now, and all the 30-odd teams are going to play one another at some point during the season. Well, I don't really have to see the Mets play the Seattle Mariners. I don't really have to see the Yankees play the Pittsburgh Pirates. I want them playing the teams in their own league, but they don't listen to me. I don't know. I'm here to tell them what they need to do, but they don't ask me my opinion, You guys are the only ones who ask my opinion.
For a more balanced schedule?
What's that?
Does this make for a more balanced schedule?
Probably, yeah, probably. But it takes away,
can't complain about.
It takes away the traditional. I mean, I'm a National League fan. I love National League baseball. I love bunts. I love stolen bases. I love hit and run. I love those things. I grew up with that, and they have taken it away. The analytic algorithms now.
Taking away strategy, and that's what you sit there at a ball game.
What makes it such a unique game? Strategy is what makes it so unique.
Exactly.
Right.
And strategy was ongoing, and the fan can talk about it and think about it as the game goes on. Whereas football, you don't understand it. And basketball, it's too fast to think about. So baseball is chess, athletic chess. And it was the perfect game. Get them on, get them over, get them in.
Exactly.
You don't hear that anymore?
Baseball is a cerebral sport. Baseball is a thinking man's sport. Basketball, football, hockey, it's all brute strength. My guys are bigger and stronger than your guys, or my guys are taller and quicker than your guys. Baseball's not like that. Baseball, you don't have to be 6'6" and 280 pounds. You don't have to know. In fact, that's probably a hindrance. You have to be a normal-sized individual. You have to be smart.
You can win or lose a game in so many different ways that there are no two games that have ever been played exactly the same. And I just want to ask you guys one more question about upcoming rule changes. What is the purpose of enlarging the bases, and does that make it less than 90 feet from home plate and less than 90 feet from first to second, in which case the entire record book is skewed?
Of course it is. Well, I think the reason they want larger bases is to avoid possible injuries, spiking injuries. There's a famous story. I'm doing a presentation in a couple of weeks on Jackie Robinson, the 75th anniversary of him breaking the color line in baseball. And there's a ton of stories about his career and what he faced as the first black man in modern Major League Baseball. And among them is a story about Enos Country Slaughter, who came from North Carolina, and running to first base. Jackie was playing first base in his rookie year, and deliberately spiking him because he had his foot on the base and to make the put out, and Slaughter deliberately spiked him. Well, the thinking now is with a larger base, there won't be that kind of collision, that kind of opportunity to collide with the first baseman. I can see that, but as you pointed out, and sometimes I wonder if they even think about these things, you're now reducing the distance between first and second base and second and third base. And Doc Adams, who dreamt up many of the laws of baseball, said 90 feet was the optimum distance. Well, now it's going to be 89 feet or 88 feet or whatever it's going to be. And that's a mistake. You wake up, baseball. That's no good. It's supposed to be 90 feet. And as you pointed out, they're playing with the record book. They played with the record book last year. Guys got RBIs from a runner on second base when the runner shouldn't have ever been on second base. You got to earn those bases. That's the whole idea. But
is bringing back the phantom runner just a rumor, or is that firm?
No, it's a rumor. They're talking about it. But my understanding is that both the players and the owners want that rule. So if they both want it, you're going to get it. Why did they drop it in the first place if they both wanted it? I don't know.
There's still going to be 1 billion strikeouts and 10,000 pitching changes.
Yeah. Yes.
I developed another stat the other day: strikeouts per plate appearance. You take Joey Gallo, for example, and his average.
I don't want him. You take him.
His average in that category is around 370. This is strikeouts per plate appearance.
Wow.
And some of these Yankee fans on Facebook were upset that they got rid of Gary Sanchez. They should be thrilled.
The big Stengel, when Casey Stengel was named manager of the Mets in 1962, their first year, the first draft choice was a catcher named Hobie Landreth. And the writers at that time asked Casey, why did you pick Hobie Landreth? Why did you pick a catcher? And Casey said, well, if you don't have a catcher, you get a lot of passed balls. Well, Yankees had a catcher, and they got a lot of
pass balls. Yeah, pass balls and errors. That was his fielding.
He couldn't catch.
The Mets traded Hobie Lambert the next year to the Orioles. No, that same year to the Orioles, and they got Marvelous Mark Throneberry.
He also couldn't catch the ball.
I know that.
At a different angle, so.
My favorite Met transaction in those early years was when they obtained Harry Cheedy, another catcher, Harry Cheedy, for a player to be named later. And when it came time to deliver the player to be named later, it was Harry Cheedy.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you,
comedy occurs.
Hal Bock and Alan Blumkin remember that the worst trade in those days the Mets made was after the season. They traded righty Bob Miller, a relief pitcher, to the Dodgers for Larry Burright and Tim Harkness. And boy, did that ever set them back.
No, Larry Burright, I remember a play where he was backing up to catch a pop-up and he fell right on his backside.
And Tim Harkness was at bat when Jimmy Pearsall was the next batter when Jimmy Pearsall ran backwards. Tim Harkness was number 3.
He had to celebrate his home run. You know, it was 100 home runs. That's a moment to remember. So he decided to remember it.
And another quote by Casey about that, he says, "There's only room for one clown on this team, and I'm it."
They were a modern version of the Dodger Daffiness boys. You know, the Dodgers of the 30s and 40s were known as the Daffiness boys because they did some odd things, and the Mets were very much like them.
Well, it was tough to love them after the first year.
Yeah.
Because the city itself had a history of New York City teams winning big all my lifetime. And at that time, when the Mets came in, it changed all of that. But because of Casey, it made it cute, and it was easy to take. Let's put it that way. First, after that, I was in a hurry for 1969.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories from the '62 Mets was that they had gotten Gene Woodling from Washington, who was 40 years old at the time. So he's sitting next to Stengel in the dugout watching the Mets blow another game. Casey turns to him and says, "Ain't like the old days, is it?"
No, it really wasn't. David, talk to me a little bit on a personal matter. You just moved to Florida, and that what's that like? Have you taken in any spring baseball? I guess
not yet.
Not yet.
No,
but
no, they haven't.
Right. But anything on the agenda for that? Tell us how living conditions are, and
it's a change. And we're still going through the change. I always wanted to live where there were palm trees, so I got that under my belt now. And the other thing I wanted was to have columns in front of my house, like the old Southern plantation. And the house has a couple of columns in front of the house. So I'm pretty well pleased with all that. But there are some things that can drive you crazy in this state. And one of them is there are
Floridians.
There are more Floridians than anywhere else in the world in Florida. Right. You know that? They're incredibly bad drivers. They make New Jersey drivers look like angels. They don't bother staying in their lane. They don't signal. They don't even know what a turn signal is. And they just fly, regardless of the speed limit. They just fly along at about 60, 65 miles an hour.
One of them took out Pete Alonso the other day. Did you see that accident?
That's right.
Well,
that's right.
Yeah.
Guy ran a red, plowed into him.
You get the impression that they're terrible drivers because every other billboard in the state is for a law firm handling accident cases. And it's true, you know, I got $800,000 from such and such for my accident, you know, and that's really what it's all about. There are some very frustrating things. The traffic lights are on interminably. You don't get those smooth left-hand turns from both sides that you do up north, where, you know, the oncoming lane makes its left and you make your left or right. And so you sit and wait at traffic lights so you can go crazy. Meanwhile, the people are very nice. The people are very friendly. They try to do their jobs well, and that's to the good. They're not particularly. They remind me a bit about the British. When we lived in Britain, a lot of things were much slower than they were here in the States, and it's the same thing now here. I mean, they'll stop what they're doing if you're in a supermarket, and they'll take you over to the aisle where the thing is you're looking for, and they're very nice like that. But they don't seem to have it. There's no sense of urgency about service people. They don't, you know, we're waiting for things that we ordered. Now, I know a lot of it is due to the what do you call it? The delays. No, not at the pandemic so much as the delays, you know, in the supply chain problems.
Right.
But I tell you, you got to wait, and they don't even bother telling you, hey, you know, your thing will be in about 3 weeks or so. They don't wait. They don't tell you anything at all. So we're waiting for things that sometimes we have to keep a written note about to make sure we don't forget that we ordered the thing. They're not very good like that. But there are some interesting places here in Central Florida that most people think of as sort of just beaches. But there are some real old towns in Florida that are very interesting to explore. One of them is a town of about 40 minutes from us that's called Lake Nora. Lake Dora. And it's one of the oldest towns in Florida. You know, when they were building Florida, they built the big railroad magnates like Flagler. They built hotels to go along with their railroad, so people could stop and you know, set up for the night and not be on the train. Hello.
Yeah.
David?
Yeah.
David, did you buy a house or did you buy a condo?
What? Well, no, we bought a house. Hold on a second. I got to do something.
Okay.
What is that?
I don't know, but let me take the time to say.
I'm sorry about that. No, we bought a house.
Okay.
It's in a really nice neighborhood. And Dr. Phillips is the name of the neighborhood. Interesting sort of guy. Been dead since the 50s, but his name lives on. And of course, everything around here is, you know, is based on the amusement parks. Universal Studios only a few minutes away. Disney World is a bit further down the Florida Turnpike and Route 4. We haven't been there yet. I've been to those places. You know, I mean, unless you're there with kids to enjoy it, it's not.
You could ride the Ferris wheel. You could ride the merry-go-round. What a wonderful life!
Yes, right. Yeah, the teacups and sing along with the small world.
Let me get serious a second. What's the adjustment from working every day? Like you worked until very recently.
Yeah.
Are your wheels spinning and You know what I mean?
Well, I've had a few things to do. I've had some writing assignments to do, and I'm trying to set up my new computer system and do things like that. And of course, I've got all the moving stuff to take care of, and also one of the things, you have to find new doctors. You know, you spend so much time with the doctor in New York, New Jersey, or Alameda, wherever, and you come down here, and the medical facilities seem like top notch, but you have to find all new doctors and start new relationships.
And you get referrals from neighbors and what have you. Or,
yeah.
I don't know if there's Yelp down there.
I'm sure there are.
If you have a problem, just call the governor. Call Governor DeSantis. He'll help you out.
Yeah. Yeah, I've avoided discussing the governor, boy. He's a beaut, isn't he? Politics aside, what he did to those teenagers who were there to be with him when he made that speech, right. I guess it was in Tallahassee, that was disgraceful. No adult should ever do that to a bunch of kids in front of an audience or even without an audience. I mean, and here were these kids. I'm sure they were excited to meet the governor. Politics aside, the kids probably didn't know whether he was a Democrat or a Republican. But the point was they were going to meet the state's highest official. And he comes out on I'm sure you saw it. And he comes up on the podium there, and he rants and raves about these kids wearing masks. It was disgraceful. It really was.
Right.
There was no class there at all. None whatsoever.
How about Trump? Is he a worthy opponent of Trump?
I don't know. I try to avoid anything.
I have another question. Now that you live in Orlando, what sports teams do you have that you can root for?
Yeah, nothing right now. I'm waiting to see. Down here, a lot of it is college football. Now it's spring training, spring training, I guess they call it. The football teams get together for spring workouts and stuff. University of Central Florida is supposed to be a pretty good, highly rated team. And there's several others, of course, University of Florida and Florida State. But that's the big thing here. And if it isn't college football, it's high school football. They're very, very big on here.
What about the Grand Old Game?
Yeah, I wish I could give you more information about that. I haven't seen very much. There was one story about a high school pitcher who was doing really well. I forget his name, of course. But they're really Tampa Bay, the Rays. That's the closest team here, and they get a little bit of coverage. They'll get more now as spring training proceeds and the season starts, because they're a pretty good team, by the way.
They're liable to move to Montreal.
Yeah, there was talk of them playing half the season there. Yeah, it was
that's
crazy.
A clever move. I think that's a really good idea. Play half the games.
Wasn't that the Marlins?
Games in Montreal.
Yeah, it was. I think it was.
That's runner on second base idea, you know?
Yeah, why don't you bastardize the game a little more?
Yeah,
exactly.
Have 3 home fields.
Yeah,
I know. And you know what bothers me about that is the fact that over the years, since I'd say the late 50s or so, baseball has just ceded the field to football. Pro football has taken over everything in terms of professional sports, and they did it simply because MLB just blew stuff out of the water. Everything they've done, Hal, as you've talked about, all of these silly, stupid things would not have happened if cooler heads had prevailed and some intelligence were up there in the New York MLB offices. It's a tragedy. And now, of course, this is like the third year in a row that they haven't really started a season on time or a full season or a full spring training, and it's just so annoying, so absolutely annoying. It didn't have to be that way.
They had these on the local news here. The day after the lockout, they had a couple of people who have either restaurants or bars right near Yankee Stadium, and this one guy was actually crying because he thought he was going to have to close it down, his place down because of the lockout. And they don't give a good goddamn about anybody who is depending on. It's just really, really sad. And I said, they don't give. You think that these, Manfred talks about the fans. Nobody, they don't give a. Who do you think is going to pay for all this?
No, they don't. They don't.
And,
but it goes back a long, guys. It goes back a long way. And when I first realized that baseball is going to shoot themselves in the foot entirely, is when Bowie Kuhn suspended Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays for quote gambling, and they weren't even doing that. They were just greeters.
They were greeters, right? Yeah.
Right, in Atlantic City, and it was a blatant disregard for fans that wanted to see these guys in spring training as coaches, and salute them or whatever, Old Timers Day, and he suspended them, and I thought, does he really give a damn about the fans and what they want? All they want is memories and reliving memories and thinking about it. Why are they screwing with it?
Bill Veeck said that a long time ago that baseball was its own worst enemy.
Yes, it is.
That baseball had ceded the ground to professional football. Baseball has always had an advantage because the other sports are collision sports. I know that basketball originally was designed as a non-contact sport. That went out the window a long time ago. The other three major sports are collision sports, and guys get hurt. And football in particular, there are brain injuries, and guys are committing suicide. Mm-hmm. Baseball had the advantage in that respect. From the health standpoint, players didn't get hurt. I mean, they got beamed. Occasionally, players got hit, and players slid and broke a leg or whatever. But they're not nearly the amount of injuries that you had in the other sports, particularly in football. And yet, football managed to take over, and they're in front. There's no question about it. And what baseball has done with the rules hasn't helped. In my view, with the instant replay, that is another thing that really drives me crazy. When the three umpires or the two umpires huddle with the headsets trying to figure out if a guy was safe or out, and it goes on for 10 minutes, and they worry about the pace of the game. Well, the pace of the game, you're supposed to play, I understand that umpires make mistakes. I understand that they're human, but that's part of the game. The Detroit Tigers, I guess it was, had a pitcher who was like a relief pitcher, brief and ineffective, but he had a perfect game. I forget the kid's name. He had a perfect game, 2 out of the 9th inning.
Not the hitter. It was something like Jose Galarraga. Yeah, he had a perfect game till 2 out in the 9th inning, and the umpire
blew the call.
Safe when he was out. He blew the call.
Right. Yeah. And there went the perfect game.
The umpire himself admitted that he blew the call.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And
he was one of the better umpires in the league, too.
You get terrible umpires like Angel Hernandez and C.B. Buckner that keep their jobs year after year. And Hernandez had the gall to sue baseball the other year because he said he was being denied a job as a crew chief because he was Hispanic. The reason he didn't get the job is because he stinks. He's always the lowest rated. He leads the league in overturned calls every year. He's terrible.
But one other
quick comment,
Hal, one other thing. One of the great advantages that baseball had over the other three sports is that it started after the winter. It started in the spring when everybody wanted to get outside and do things.
Absolutely right.
And who goes into the hockey season saying, it's December. You know,
you go into the arena to get out of the snow.
Yeah, I mean,
football had playoff games in 6 and 7 degree weather.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that's right. And
I used to say, when baseball opens, the weather gets better, and when football opens, the weather will get eventually cold.
Let me ask you guys a question. I had several times that I covered the Indianapolis 500, and there are 400,000 auto racing fans who jam the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I would like to know why you think they come to that race.
I don't know. I worked with a guy years ago who was a big auto racing fan. He said he used to go to the Indy every year, and he said, "What we'll have to do? What was that they have to do to get you interested?" I said, "Put up pari-mutuel windows."
Well, yeah.
Well, they come for the crashes.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, you get to
sit there and watch a car go around the track 200 times and enjoy that. That, you know.
Well, yeah, but they don't want it to go around the track 200 times.
No.
They want to see crashes.
Yeah,
they want to see flames, and that's what they come for. I know it because I was there. I've seen it. So, what am I going to tell you?
And to interact with each other. There's a certain ilk of folks that enjoy that and get off on it as a crowd. Sickening as it is. And the smells and what have you appeal to some people. The engine,
the oil smells,
right, and the noise and what have you.
And you know what? At the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I don't know if this is true at the other races, but at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the fans are allowed to walk through the garage area. So they're up close to the cars and up close to the mechanics who are working on the cars. They feel an involvement. They feel almost a hands-on experience. That's not true in baseball. In baseball, you're not close enough to the players to be in a one-on-one experience. You're not. You're just not. So that's part of it as well.
Except David and Charlie Silvera.
Right. Listen, but one of the other things about that, one of the great things about golf is that the fans are close to the players while they're playing. That's a really unusual fact.
Often tennis are country club sports. That's what their heritage is, the country club.
Yeah.
Baseball and football are not.
Well, if you guys remember Forest Hills in the 50s, oh, God, that was a great fan experience. You go to the side courts and watch these guys.
I used to go every year at Forest Hills, and I went several years in Flushing Meadows before they priced me out.
And
the same is true in Flushing Meadows. The outside courts are always jammed fans because it's a good event. There's no question about that. But baseball, I think baseball just fumbled the ball away, and it's a shame. It really is, because the game as it was designed originally was a compelling game, a compelling contest. And it no longer is a compelling contest. It's an exercise in what Alan said: home runs, strikeouts, and walks. That's what it is.
Yeah. They don't even have batting practice anymore at some stadiums. Well, I've been told they've done away with all that infield practice and just before the game. It used to be you could watch them play one-a-cat, things like that.
And
Pepper.
Yeah.
Now, when I was a kid, you guys probably experienced the same thing. When the new baseball cards came out in March, you got very, very excited. You bought up as many packs as you could. You traded, with other kids who, they had 2 Mickey Mantles and I had 2 Joe Blows. They traded me a Mickey Mantle for a Joe Blow. And now, I don't know that many young kids even collect them anymore.
I think they collect the whole box, unopened.
They're fortunate. They cost a ton of money now.
I know.
And the money in baseball cards is all in the old stuff from when we were kids.
And
Yeah,
that was
right.
something we never thought of as a kid.
No.
How much is it worth from a financial standpoint? How much is it worth from you're enjoying the thing, the card itself?
I had an offer for $1,000 for my Mickey Mantle rookie card.
Whoa.
Did you take it?
No.
You still have the card?
Yep.
Probably worth $1,500 now.
Probably so. It's not in mint condition, which is the big divider between the real big money. I did what most kids do. If you have an album, you put little corners of Scotch tape on the corner, and so eventually the Scotch tape disappears, but the little brown corner remains forever and ever. So the back of the cards are great. The back of the cards are pristine, but it's on the front.
Yeah, also the number ones, and most of those early sets are very hard and premium condition because you used to put the rubber bands around them.
Right.
And the number ones got pressed, like the Pefco in the 1952 top set.
Much less put them in your bicycle and the spokes.
In fact, somebody a few years ago on one of the baseball sites on Facebook put up a picture of a Frank Robinson card and spokes, bike spokes, and they captioned it an American tragedy.
That is. Hey guys, we're coming to the end. What a terrific reunion it is. The Fab Four, only George Case isn't with us, and I don't know why. We've done podcasts, George and I, for 4 or 5 years now on a regular basis, and George Case always shows up.
Yeah, true.
I hope he's okay, and I'll look into that right after getting off the air. But Hal, David, and Al, I can't tell you, this is terrific for me. It made me forget that there's an impending nuclear war right around the corner. At least I have 45 minutes of memories and good thoughts. Even though baseball is not what it was, we're still going to watch this season.
Oh, I stopped watching last year.
Totally?
Almost. The most I watched of any, I told this to George, the most I've watched of any game last year was 6 innings of the Yankee-Red Sox wild card game, and George said that he watched even less than I did. It's just unwatchable. It's become unwatchable. If anybody would have told me even 10 years ago that it would have devolved to this state, I would have told them they were crazy.
And now, of course,
70s, 80s, and 90s, I lived at ballparks.
Yeah.
The algorithms and the analytics crowd, they were the ones who did this to us. And
I know that,
yeah. And adding 2 more teams to the playoffs, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't even talk about that.
December. Some World Series player that will haven't missed the December.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah. I remember a time when you had to win the National League and win the American League, and then you got into the World Series.
Yeah.
You didn't have wild cards. You didn't have rounds and rounds of playoffs. You had the World Series was right after the regular season. 2 teams win, they go into the World Series. But that's long gone.
Yeah, the worst thing they did in 1994 was split the leagues into three divisions, because then you start rewarding teams, which has been the case for since then, for not winning.
Right. And the wild card thing in the playoffs, that at first irked me. Now you've got to have more teams than before. I understand it. There are 30 teams. That's absolutely.
Why not make it 16 teams like hockey and basketball?
Right.
They probably will one day. They're going to add 2 more teams, by the way. There are 30 teams now. There'll be 32 eventually, because it's a more evenly divided.
They're going
dividable.
to have eight 14 divisions like football has.
Yes.
Oh,
That's
God.
Well, I can see thinking about expanding if all the teams are profitable, but you've got teams like Tampa Bay and you've got teams like the A's with big question, and Miami, big question marks of where they're going to be in 5 years. And if it were that simple, how come they haven't moved? If the markets out there aren't guaranteed to be successful, then why aren't these teams moving to it?
You may see that as well. I don't know. Montreal is lusting for a team again, you know.
That's right, Montreal. Mm-hmm.
Are they building a new stadium? Ralph, are they building a new stadium for the A's?
And now the gambling is condoned in baseball.
It's controlled and everything. Yeah.
Las Vegas may get the A's.
Yeah. And, I have the Rays already, so.
Yeah.
The A's and the Rays.
The A's and the Rays. You know, their problems are remarkably similar, the A's and the Rays, from the ball club thing to the markets they're in. Although the A's are in one of the sweetest markets in the country, and when it was going good, like in the '89 World Series, both the A's and the Giants were drawing very well. So it can be done. And anyway, let's keep this going for another 5 years. How about that, guys?
All right, there you go.
All right. Okay. And I thank you all for being here. Again, my concern is George. We'll find out about him in due time. But thank you for listening, everybody. Alan Blumkin, Hal Bock, and David Hubler are here, and along with the weak link, Ralph Tyko. The weak link of it all, let me tell you. But I appreciate it. It was fun. Happy trails, everybody, and stay healthy. Sei gesund. Adios.
Sei gesund.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices, and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.